Growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know.
While the coronavirus the COVID-19 crisis.
New coronavirus.
Kids have been screened for COVID-19.
COVID-19. To do with the coronavirus.
Of COVID-19.
Yes, the coronavirus. On
COVID-19 wake of COVID-19.
Have now tested positive to coronavirus.
Reporting more than 700,000 cases of coronavirus nationwide.
We quarantined for 2 weeks.
The CDC warned Americans to be prepared here at home, that it's not a matter of if, but when.
So in the beginning, when we were first getting information on the coronavirus, I was definitely one of those people who wasn't as concerned as I should have been. I was still hanging out with friends, I was still hanging out with family, I was still going to work, and I was still going to school at the time, and I had completely put it on the back burner. It wasn't until my trip to Hawaii had gotten canceled did I really understand the severity of what was happening. It had just gotten a little too unsafe to travel at that point. And that really put my mind into perspective of how serious this was getting. When sheltering in place was first just a rumor, I couldn't really picture it, and I didn't really understand how they were going to make that many people do what they were saying and shelter in place and not see people. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go to class. I couldn't go to my hands-on class that, I was filming in every day. And then all of a sudden my work wasn't essential and my boss was telling all of us to file for unemployment. And, by then, now you're really understanding how serious everything's getting. And at the beginning of quarantine, that really was hard for me. I am definitely a person who likes to go and just keep going, and I like to go to school and I like to go to work, and I realized all of that is now changing and we are getting to almost a simpler way of life, but it's also uneasy, and I wasn't really sure how to deal with that at first. And I made a list of things to do, and first things first was spring cleaning, but eventually everything gets cleaned, and then it's just kind of like, what do I do with my time? And, slowly but surely figuring it out that I liked having my set projects for each day. My dad came up with a really good idea. He said, why don't we learn something new? We have the time to practice since we have to stay at home, and that sounded like a great idea to me. So we decided to learn knife throwing, which sounds a little crazy, but it was actually really fun because first, we had to figure out how to build the target and what kind of knives to use and how to actually do it. And, every day that is something we can practice now. And that was really fun. In the beginning, hiking was a really big thing for me, and going on long walks. Of course, now hiking has changed a little bit as I can't go with friends, but I can still do it by myself or with family, and that's pretty fun. I'd say the biggest and hardest changes would be that I can't see family and I can't see friends. At this point, we have missed countless birthdays, and that's really sad, and it's really sad to see that person have to celebrate alone and just in quarantine by themselves. Not only that, but also, missing Easter with our family. Everyone, has missed Easter with their family probably for the first time in their lives. And that's crazy, not being able to gather for a special event. And, in that situation, I thought, what can I do? There has to be something I can do. So I decided to get all of my cousins to write out a cute little sentiment for our grandma. And I made these cute little paper bunnies, and I wrote down everyone's sentiment on it and posted them on her window so she would have something special to wake up to on Easter, because she couldn't be with all of her grandchildren on that day. And it's definitely been things like that. trying to think of, what I can do in this quarantine and how I can make other people happy. And that's what I like to base a lot of my creative energy into. Another big thing would be that I am a film student, and there were a lot of films that were planned for this time that we've been in quarantine, and a lot of that had to change really quickly. So coming up with new materials and new ideas and creating new scripts, that has been a big part of my time. Something really cool that I got to do though because of that is I went to San Francisco to see the changes that had happened and capture some of that on film. I got to see the empty streets of San Francisco, and I have never seen an empty street in San Francisco, and that is such a weird sight to see for the first time. And at rush hour, I went on the Golden Gate Bridge, and there were no cars in sight. That is just something I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen before, and to be able to get that footage and to experience that was a really eye-opening thing. A lot of sadness has come from this pandemic, this quarantine, and I have to say that I am very grateful and happy that it has not permanently affected any of my family or friends. But just to find some light in the darkness, I am happy in the way that this has brought a community almost together. This has brought a lot of people together. A lot of people are trying to help others as much as they can within quarantine limits, and we are finally giving the honor and respect that first responders should have probably gotten a long time ago. And it is the small things like that that we can look at in this dark time. But there's a little bit of good in everything.